So in this video, I'm going to take you through, rather quickly actually, a whole collection of the Disney movies, shows, read-along tapes, and some other items that I grew up with. Now, all of these items, all of these movies and shows in particular can be looked up on Wikipedia. A lot of them have been released to DVD. Some are available through download on Google Play. So if you're interested in finding out more about them, there are like a zillion places where you can find out more about them. I will throw in some interesting trivia, starting with Aladdin. This was actually one of the first movies. I think I've had this one on VHS since I was 5. And for those who do not know, there is an Aladdin reboot in the works, and interestingly enough, they've plucked Will Smith to fill Robin Williams' shoes as the genie. That, by itself, automatically makes this thing, in my opinion, worth watching, because I'd really like to see what Smith does with the character of the genie. This is going to be interesting. Lion King, that's also due for a live-action remake. 2019, I believe, is when it's going to be out. The actor who played Mufasa, off the top of my head, I can't remember his name because it's very late and my brain is shot. He's going to be coming back. Otherwise, as I understand it, almost every other role is going to be given new voice acting parts. For those of you who are wondering where that song Circle of Life came from, right here. This was one of the very first movies. I remember when I was younger, my father would read the book of the Lion King to us. So that was awesome. Beauty and the Beast. I didn't actually have the video itself, but I remember watching it when I was like 5, 6 years old. I've since downloaded the animated version and the live-action version with Emma Watson as Belle. I think both are just fantastic. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. I think they're supposed to be making a 4th one, and I don't know exactly when that's going to be coming out. The Rescuers. I didn't personally own this one, but I do remember watching it when I was very little up at my summer house with the rest of the family. Fox and the Hound, same scenario. I actually have the tape for this one, but I haven't seen it in so long that it's kind of left my memory. In fact, it wasn't until I was preparing for this video that that it suddenly shot into my mind. The Aristocats. Didn't own the tape, but I've rented it a couple of times. I just love that song, Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. And that crazy butler, well, that man's just nuts. Oliver and Company. I absolutely loved, what was Francis? I remember Tito was a Chihuahua, but I can't remember if Francis was a full-on pit bull or if he was a pug. But he honestly struck me as one of my favorite characters because he was so sophisticated. The Great Mouse Detective. Now this, I remember watching it when I was little. I remember watching it again when I was, how old was I? Probably middle school / high school. I've practically memorized this one. I absolutely love, I loved Ratigan's cat. That cat seriously needed to go on a diet. The Little Mermaid, didn't own this one, but I did remember seeing it in theaters. And I wanted to download it on Google Play, but unfortunately it's in the Disney Vault. And what that basically means is that it's currently locked away, I guess, on Disney servers somewhere, and eventually they'll re-release it in a couple years. But until then, I mean, obviously I could get this hard copy on disc, I'm assuming, but my personal view on discs these days are they're just something to lose. Sword in the Stone. Didn't actually own this one, but I do remember watching it with family. That wizard was honestly one of my favorite characters, especially when he turned the young lad into a fish. Cinderella. I remember the Easter I got this. What I think is elementary school, yeah. I remember we had a slide in the backyard and a gym set, and I remember finding eggs and found the tape along with it. It really, I can't remember if I requested it or if it just came as a surprise, but I do have the VHS for this one. Flubber. If anybody on this earth could invent a flying car that is as energy efficient as the one Professor Brainerd did, well, I think that would go a long way towards solving our energy problem and the pollution issues. But then again, we'd have to also wait for somebody to actually invent Flubber. I remember when I was little, we went to the beach in California and I got a major sunburn. And we picked up this anti-sunburn medicated whatchamacallit, but it was bright green, so we nicknamed it Flubber. Now, Robin Hood, I think I saw on video. I don't remember, but I do have the audio cassette. Now, the way these Disney audio cassettes worked is, as you can see here, you've got the tape and you've got the book, and you basically follow along with the narrator, and the narrator is usually a character from the movie or some generic individual. Excuse me. And what they would open with is something along the lines of, this is the story of this and this and that. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear this sound. And typically it would be chimes ringing. You'll see in a moment that I also have I also had the tape for the Jungle Book, and in that one they used a bird caw. I also had The Lion King on audio story tape along with Toy Story. Give me a moment. Gotta find where I left off. Another tape that I had was Iago Returns. That was a fun story. Basically, Aladdin and Jasmine ended up getting sucked into this alternate dimension thanks to a magical necklace that Iago robbed from this guy who was basically trying to get Aladdin in particular to be proper for a guest that was arriving later in the story. Another Disney tape that I remember was Snow White. And again, oh, I'm sorry, wait a moment, let me go back. Hang on. I goofed. Okay, so I just realized that I was talking about Iago Returns, which is this one, while I was looking at the Jungle Book. I remember listening to this tape for the Jungle Book on the way to therapy. They used Bagheera as the narrator, the gentleman who acted in his role. So that's for the narrated tapes. We've also got other movies. We've got The Love Bug, Herbie Rides Again, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, and Herbie Goes Bananas, which is available, by the way, if you go to Amazon, you can actually get all 4 of these pretty cheaply on DVD. It's about this fun little Volkswagen that's basically alive, and he has such a big heart and always wants to have fun and is really trying to help people out, and he's a race car. I mean, this little bug can go as fast as a Ferrari if he puts his mind to it. And they also did a reboot of this franchise with Herbie Fully Loaded back when I was in high school, and they put Lindsay Lohan in the starring role, which, looking back on it, I actually think is a little odd. Homeward Bound and Homeward Bound 2. I loved Shadow and Sassy. Chance was a little meh. Xenon Girl of the 21st Century, as well as Xenon the Sequel and Z3. The Sequel I don't really remember. Z1 and Z3 are the ones that I remember the most. There was also Rocket Man. I loved Ulysses. Ulysses, for those that do not know, is the chimp that they bring along on this mission to Mars. Along with this one guy who's basically a bit of a bumbling idiot / computer genius. And the chimp on the way to Mars basically gets the best of him. I won't spoil anything. Mickey's Christmas Carol. I grew up with this. Fantastic story around Christmas time. They superimpose they basically take Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol and Disneyfy it, basically. Mickey is Bob Cratchit. Scrooge McDuck from DuckTales is Ebenezer. Jiminy Cricket is the Ghost of Christmas Past. Pete is the Ghost of Christmas Future. And I can't remember for the life of me who the Ghost of Christmas Present is supposed to be. Somebody want to chime in on that one? Disney sing-along songs. I've got a couple tapes of this. I also had them in my music class back in elementary school. Absolutely fun songs to sing along to. Basically, you follow the bouncing Mickey Mouse ball, and you can learn to sing your favorite songs. They have some of these on YouTube if you want to go look for them.
It's 2 hours.
Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Now we move into the TV shows. Chippendale Rescue Rangers was basically Chippendale. And actually, if you go search for Nostalgia Critic's review of the Disney Afternoon, he has a pretty good explanation for all of these shows that I'm about to highlight here. So you can go and take a look there. There's Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, DuckTales. And that's basically it for the shows. Now we get into the actual physical merchandise that I had. We have a Lion King handheld LCD game. This was back when Tiger Electronics was really cranking out all those games. Anything with a popular name on it. Jurassic Park, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast. There was another one that wasn't a Disney one that made it into a game. What was it? I don't remember. But The Lion King is the one that I had. You know what's interesting? I remember playing this way back in the 90s and listening to it being played 20 years later. It's such a different experience. In fact, I basically breezed through the video because I already played the game. I knew what was what. And it's just so interesting how antiquated everything became. It's like, wow, it's interesting to think how far things have come. My cousin had this one, Disney's Aladdin. I think I only played that once, so I don't remember much about it. Everybody in their right mind, if you're a major Disney fanatic, has to at one point in their life have a Mickey Mouse watch. This was mine. I remember wearing it in the 2nd grade, and I'll never forget. One day, and remember, this was before cell phones that had synchronization with the atomic clock. This was before radio-controlled watches that got signals from the atomic clock. So I was sitting in class. I was in the 2nd grade. And I remember watching Mickey's hands point exactly to noon. And I raised my hand, and I said to the teacher that it was time for lunch. And she just smiled and she said, that's very good. I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was obviously positive praise. But they mentioned that they basically went to lunch around 12:20 or some such thing. But that, I'll never forget. I raised my hand and I said, time for lunch, and high noon. And oh, speaking of school memories in relation to Disney, in my art class in the 2nd grade, we were listening to the Lion King soundtrack while working. Oh, memories. This was rather interesting. It was a Mickey Mouse alarm clock. Now, for those of you who are subscribers of mine, you probably know that I actually have one of these. Not this particular one. Then that's going to be next. But this is the one that I remember having in the first place. There was a bit of a bug with it. The front cover that protects the hands popped off. I was carrying the clock around outside on a windy day, and I'm not kidding when I say Mickey's arms blew off. That, as a result, resulted in this. This is my own personal clock. In fact, I have it sitting right behind this iMac. Like I said, about 5 years ago, I went ahead and did a video on this, if you want to take a look at it. If I'm correct, I think the battery in this thing has lasted those entire 5 years. Because just the other day, I went to set it. I just wanted to set it up as sort of a mainstay placeholder till something else arrived that you'll see in just a moment. Excuse me. And it surprised the heck out of me that this thing was still running. Like, wow. Really? Oh. Wait a moment. What happened? Oh, I see the problem. Now, this is rather interesting. This is the Sounds Fun Mickey Mouse Talking Alarm Watch. They had Mickey, Minnie, Goofy. They didn't do Donald, but they did do Fred Flintstone, which was really odd. Mickey was the one that I had. I actually got this as a present from my vision teacher back in elementary school. And I'll never forget. I loved that watch. Loved it to pieces. So much so that Mickey decided to stop talking to me, literally. He basically became a mime. His mouth moved, but he didn't speak. My vision teacher got on me saying, we agreed that you couldn't bring that watch back unless you never, made it talk again. And I basically said, something along the lines of, but it doesn't talk anymore. Look. And I squeezed his hands. Yes, squeeze his hands to make him talk. And all he did was move his mouth without sound. And I don't know what happened, if the speaker was fried. We lost that in a move, because this was back before we moved into where we're living now. In truth, I'm actually humbled that Mickey decided to stop talking to me. Because that's, that helps me feel better about the loss. Because these days, if you get one that still talks and is in pristine condition, I'm not kidding, you can actually get $100. I saw one of these for $100. They are that rare and that collectible. But I had one of these back in my childhood, and it's always going to be fond memories. Now, it's interesting. There are YouTube videos. If you search for the Mickey Mouse Talking Alarm Watch or the Sounds Fun Mickey Mouse Talking Alarm Watch, there are a couple of videos that actually have him speak. And you have to remember, this was back in 1991. Okay, so we're looking at 26 years. And Mickey's voice, by today's standards, is very robotic. I mean, it is Mickey. It sounds like Mickey. but it sounds like he was speaking through one of those spinning fans. You know how sometimes you speak through a spinning fan and your voice gets all kind of thing? So that's what happened there. And if you ask him to sound the alarm, his alarm clock feature, it sounds like an old office telephone. And back in the day, to me it sounded like an alarm clock. Hearing it again 20 some odd years later, it sounds like an old telephone in an office. That is just weird. But I'm serious. If you have one of these that is in pristine condition and speaks and you're willing to part with it, you could easily get up to $100 for this. If I still had mine, I don't think it'd be worth quite that much unless there was somebody out there that was willing to open up Mickey and perform some major surgery, if you will, to try to get his vocal cords back in order. But so that was that. Now, I was feeling nostalgic the other day, and I decided to get this. This is the MCK 959 Mickey Mouse watch. It is the classic, much like the one that I showed you with the red numbers a little bit ago. Classic design where Mickey's hands tell the time. For me, it's very easy to see. This is actually the second watch that I bought. The first one I gave to a family member because they were immediately taken aback by it, and I had a hard time seeing it because it was bright silver, reflective, and honestly almost hurt my eyes. That did not show up in the pictures on Amazon, and in real life it was very different. This, on the other hand, much easier to see, and what's interesting about this one is the font kind of reminds me of my old school's alarm clock, or wall clock. But now it's the average, it's the off-the-shelf classic design of Mickey telling the time. And the crown is very easy to grasp and set. And there's actually an embedded D from the Walt Disney logo. There's actually an embedded D on the crown, which I think is a really nice touch. So, yeah, I honestly felt nostalgic, decided to pick one of these up, and I decided to make this video. Lately I've been going on sort of a binge with getting a lot of Disney-related material. I've purchased Aladdin again. I've purchased, let's see. So I purchased Aladdin. I purchased Beauty and the Beast, like I said, both versions. I've purchased The Rescuers. I purchased, did I say Aladdin? I think I said Aladdin. Shoot, there was one other. All three Xenon movies. And the main reason I purchased those again was because I wanted to purchase the videos that I did have on VHS, because these days those tapes are like, they might still play, but who knows how much life they have left in them. And the VCR that we had, that might be shot by now. I'm a little afraid to use it. So I figured, since we got the streaming media, why not just go ahead and buy buy it on Google Play. So I did. So anyway, that is everything Disney that I basically grew up with. Anything in here look familiar? Chime out in the comments. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.